All right, so grab something to write down with. All right, so today we're gonna go over the adversity. Every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. I've been talking to you guys about writing stuff down and writing your notes down. I want you guys to know that this is a reality. This is something that when I start to talk about auto-suggestions and writing stuff down, you need to practice it on the spot. Your mind will play mind games. And I know if you guys are not committed to the process, here's an example of how many times I've written out auto-suggestion for myself. You need to make sure you do that. Like I'm auto-suggesting everything. I feel like I lack systems in my life where I'm like repetitive, and you're gonna start to catch on to it. Like you go to the grocery store and you forget a bunch of product and you're like, I don't have a system here. Keep going back and forth. And I know it's cool, but at the end of the day, you guys are gonna be in an environment where you guys are gonna be engaging in sales. Those little things are gonna matter. The very, very fine little things are gonna matter. So I want you guys to know, grab yourself a notebook. The notebook was given to me and I'm writing stuff down all the time. It helps me as an assessment tool because I'm going back to when I started this and I'm like, how much growth have I experienced? And I've been writing down for a long time gratitude, affirmations, and 10 minutes of visualizing where you need to be at. Visualize that. Otherwise, you're going to visualize a bunch of negative stuff. But anyway, I'm excited that we're in this book. Specialized knowledge. I would write that down as a note. Personal experience or observation. The fourth step towards riches. I want you guys to be able to, good morning. I want you guys to be able to have on your toolbox of secret weapons. I want you to be able to have these four different steps that we've gone through for you guys to become rich. There are two kinds of knowledge. One is general. The other is specialized. General knowledge, no matter how great in quantity or variety it may be, is oft but little used in the accumulation of money. The faculties of the great universities possess in the aggregate practically every form of general knowledge known to civilization. Most of the professors have but little money. They specialize on teaching knowledge, but they do not specialize on the organization or the use of knowledge. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes. The teachers, they specialize on teaching knowledge, but they do not specialize on the organization or the use of knowledge. Knowledge will not attract money unless it's organized and intelligently directed through practical plans of action to the definite end of accumulation of money. Lack of understanding of this fact has been the source of confusion to millions of people who falsely believe that knowledge is power. It is nothing of the sort. Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes power only when and if it is organized into definite plans of action and directed to a definite end. This missing link in all systems of education may be found in the failure of educational institutions to teach their students how to organize and use knowledge after they acquire it. Many people make the mistake of assuming that because Henry Ford had but little schooling, he was not a man of education. Those who make this mistake do not understand the real meaning of the word educate. That word is derived from the Latin word educo, meaning to educe, to draw out, to develop from within. An educated man is not necessarily one who has an abundance of generalized or specialized knowledge. An educated man is one who has so developed the faculties of his mind that he may acquire anything he wants or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. This is the next chapter. The ignorant man who made a fortune. During the First World War, a Chicago newspaper published certain editorials in which, among other statements, Henry Ford was called an ignorant pacifist. Mr. Ford objected to the statements and brought suit against the paper for libeling him. When the suit was tried in the courts, the attorneys for the paper pleaded justification and placed Mr. Ford himself on the witness stand for the purpose of proving to the jury that he was ignorant. The attorneys asked Mr. Ford for a great variety of questions, all of them intended to prove by his own evidence that while he might possess considerable specializing knowledge pertaining to the manufacture of automobiles, he was in the main ignorant. Mr. Ford was plied with such questions as the following. Who was Benedict Arnold, and how many soldiers did the British send over to America to put down the rebellion of 1776? In answer to the last question, Mr. Ford replied, I do not know the exact number of soldiers the British sent over, but I have heard that it was considerably larger number than ever went back. Finally, Mr. Ford became tired of this line of questioning, and in reply to a particular offensive question, he leaned over, pointed his finger at the lawyer who had asked the question, and said, if I should really want to answer the foolish questions you have just asked, or any of the other questions you have been asking me, let me remind you that I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk, and by pushing the right button, I can summon to my aid men who can answer any questions I desire to ask concerning the business which I am devoting most of my efforts. Now, will you kindly tell me why I should clutter up my mind with general knowledge for the purpose of being able to answer questions when I have men around me who can supply the knowledge I require? I think he's talking about Google now. There certainly was good logic to that reply. That answer floored the lawyer. Every person in the courtroom realized that it was the answer not of an ignorant man, but of a man of education. Any man is educated who knows where to get knowledge when he needs it and how to organize that knowledge into definite plans of actions. Through the assistance of his mastermind group, Henry Ford had at his command all the specialized knowledge he needed to enable him to become one of the wealthiest men in America. It was not essential that he have this knowledge in his own mind. Did that make sense to you guys? It wasn't about the knowledge he had, it was about the knowledge that he created in the mastermind group so that he could get the knowledge. So his whole concept was, let me not store my mind with knowledge that I don't need, let me specialize in the knowledge that I need to do. All right, I'll wrap it up with this. What time is it? 8:37. Okay, so one more minute. You can get all the knowledge you need. Before you can be sure of your ability to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent, you will require specialized knowledge of the service, merchandise, or profession which you intend to offer in return for fortune. Perhaps you may need much more specialized knowledge than you have the ability or the inclination to acquire. And if this should be true, you may bridge your weakness through the aid of your mastermind group, which is every single morning at 8:30. The accumulation of great fortune calls for power, and power is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge, but that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the man who accumulates the fortune. The preceding paragraph should give you hope and encouragement to the man with ambition to accumulate a fortune who has not possessed himself of the necessary education to supply such specialized knowledge as he may require. Men sometimes go through life suffering from inferiority complexes because they are not men of education. The man who can organize and direct a mastermind group of men possesses knowledge useful in the accumulation of money is just as much a man of education as any man in the group. Thomas Edison had only 3 months of schooling during his entire life. He did not lack education, neither did he die poor. Henry Ford had less than 6th grade schooling, but the man aged to do pretty well by himself financially. Specialized knowledge is among the most plentiful and the cheapest forms of service which may be had. If you doubt this, consult the payroll of any university. Okay, so did you guys write notes on that? I like to say that the reason I'm confident that we have the best training program in California is due to the fact that we are working on specialized knowledge, whether you guys believe it or not. Like basically it's saying that people go to school for a lot of years and they educate themselves, but they never get specialized knowledge. So I'm really, really proud of the fact that you guys this morning are starting to improve your ability to practice, because I can structure you guys to practice every single day, but I got to give you guys the ability to want to practice on your own because there's some type of compensation. Today in this book, we're learning that it is very important for you guys to focus on having that specialized knowledge. The author of this book says that that's one of the 4 steps to creating accumulation of wealth. Does that make any sense to you guys? So even though it seems like you're not doing what you're supposed to because you're following a script, I want you guys to know that there's a lot of hope because you're already a step ahead of everybody else. Everybody else is just, hey, do you want to buy or sell? Does that make any sense to you guys? And it's very, very tough to sell on. I sold for 8 years on do you want to buy and sell? And did it go good? Yeah. But I'm confident that if I would have picked up a script and I would have specialized at something, I probably would have been in a way different position. And I'm not saying I'm going to go back and feel sorry about what I did, but moving forward, it's important for you guys to understand that even if you already master the buyer pre-qualification script, you need to practice it every day. Yesterday, I gave you guys an example. Why is it that the professional athletes that are extremely successful continue to practice every single day?
Because they train.
Because they train, and because they know that this is what they specialize at. This is how they make a living. And every time I get into issues with clients, buyers, sellers, and for you guys too, I always think that I probably could have improved my scripting skills. And at one point in time, I cut a corner where I didn't really allow them to give me the feedback necessary to arrive to what I really wanted. So I keep telling myself, Jesse, you need to keep practicing. You keep half-assing it. And then you have this problem at closing table, and these problems that we have at the closing tables really blinds us from closing the actual deals that are out there. I can guarantee you I've lost a lot of clients because I'm solving one problem. What about all the other people that want to look at homes and all that stuff? So that's why it's important for you guys to understand that your specialized knowledge is going to be your scripts. I have some very interesting information for you guys to write down. And I want you guys to take a moment to personally understand what we're doing every single day as a mastermind. I know it sounds crazy because everybody always tells me, why are you always trying to mastermind? These books to accumulation of wealth talk about masterminding all the time. In the beginning of when we started the company, we would do book clubs, and I'm starting to think that as soon as this whole COVID-19 is over, it would be a good idea to get into it so you guys could start interact. Start a book club at your own house. It's very, very interesting. Even your kids will start to read.
I was there.
Oh, strong mindset. That's what we're here to mastermind on. Strong mindset is so important for you guys to have, even for myself included. The other day I had an issue with a client. I was even thinking about like, man, I'm just gonna start another type of business. You know what I'm saying? And you know what that was? My mindset. You know what I'm saying? My mindset is so important, and we're very interactive because you guys are gonna have the issue. Do not be afraid to pull each other to the side and be like, yo, man, I feel like quitting. Sometimes all it takes is for you to really talk about it. Does that make any sense? We want to take the path of least resistance all the time, and it's very normal. But remember, it's not about what's happening right now. The deals are going to fall apart. You're going to have to, like, if I was to break down to you guys all the side hustles that I had when I first started in the industry, I know I was cutting myself short, but I needed that because I wasn't working on my strong mindset. And it happens. I'm not one that can tell you this is how you're going to control it. I can just give you the tools. So that's what the reason why we're Mastermind. Strong mindset. Write down community contribution. You guys need to be such highly skilled professionals that your contribution to the community is second to none. I see way too many real estate practitioners with their stinky commission breath, and I hate it. I hate to see that. And the reason I hate to see that is because when you're thinking about the commission, you get completely blinded. We've had to give up so much money to customers. And obviously we're going to work on that, right? Anyway, we're going to hand over all that money to people. David, we're going to work on that. But the reality of stuff, the reason we fold and we bring that type of service is because our contribution to the economy is very important, let alone to our actual community. You know, I don't want to know that you're out there and you're charging all these, and I'm not saying don't charge the right amount. I'm just saying don't charge upfront fees, don't do your arrangements on the side. It's very common. I've even had clients that are like, oh, I went to go look at properties, the guy didn't get me anything, but what was weird is, why are you not asking me for upfront money for gas and for your time? And I'm like, excuse me? So I've heard it like literally, I could say I've heard it over 20 times where I'm like, the consumer, specifically in our market area, what is very common, they're either Armenian or Hispanic, and some of them barely even speak the language, you know what I mean? Or they're still learning, their language is very choppy, they're very fearful of the whole transaction, they don't know what to do. You get a closer guy that wants to charge up front, and they think that's the right process. But how many of you guys know that's unethical? That community contribution is so important. You guys to understand that we're independent contractors that get paid after the transaction gets closed out. That's why we're masterminding every morning. The third thing I want you guys to write down is strong relationships. We're going to be working on strong relationships amongst each other. The more business we do together as a group, the more results you guys will see. I've seen it happen so much with the development of GPP that I know during the open house times, we're bouncing clients off of each other all the time. And the goal is just to close. Yes, Dave.
On that topic of strong relationships, I feel like lately I've been getting more closer with everyone in the office. What worries me is that I'm going to be moving out to Lancaster soon. And
Right.
the reason that worries me is like, man, I'm always pitching like, oh, I'm going to be doing this. What do you think? Or hey, you want to come along? And I'm not going to be having that same access.
Yeah, the one thing that's very important is communication through different sites. You know what I mean? Like in my segments of fanatical prospecting, I'll tell you that we're available Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Yeah, send us a text message and stuff like that. And that's the reason why we're having the mastermind every single day. But I want you guys to understand that these are the key components that I'm helping you guys build, so that in essence, you have the comfort of saying, I have a team behind me that backs me up and that is always working. You know what I mean? And there's a pretty good amount of experience that are within these walls of our operation, where you should always have the comfort to come to us. And if there's an issue, I mean, that's why we're here masterminding and say, hey, I want to have more access. Does that make sense to you guys? The next thing I want you guys to do is financial prosperity. That's so super important. I like to teach financial prosperity because when I first started in the real estate industry, the broker that I used to work for, he was an emotional and a financial roller coaster. Like this guy used to make a $20,000 commission, and it's like, oh, you bought yourself this brand new thing. Hey, the next commission, I'm going to get myself this. And I was all like, wow, that's very strange. The problem with that was that whether I liked it or not, I started to mirror and match it. Then I started to become that individual. So for me, it's going to be very important for us to develop a financial prosperity. And those little things are going to start off with the kind of coaching that I give you guys with $50 a month is a good saving strategy. $100 a month. Because you guys need to have rainy day money. It's very, very important. The problem is that some of us, and I speak for myself, when we start, it's so difficult to catch on because we don't follow a specific structure. It has nothing to do with you guys. It's just that what the industry has served everybody in a very cold platter. Does that make any sense to you guys? It's like the industry says 80% of people will drop out of real estate just because they don't have some type of structure. But at the same time, I want you guys to know that the industry also, the average show up time for anybody in the real estate industry is about 11, 12 o'clock. So you just imagine yourself, if you want to have financial prosperity and your arrival time is 12, 1 o'clock, by that time, you guys know we catch up all the time because we're all basically a family here. You know what I'm saying? By the time we're done catching up, then it becomes prospecting at 1, but whoops, I forgot, it's lunchtime now, and all of a sudden 1 to 2 o'clock is your delayed lunch. That's if you didn't drink any alcohol, because most real estate professionals do, and they get into 3 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they've had a 2 to 3 hour workday that's extremely non-productive. And how do you align that type of productivity with financial prosperity? Does that make any sense? So be prepared that in those masterminds, and if you guys have questions, I know you guys are asking me questions. How do I start that 529 account for the kids? How do I start to work on my retirement? And you have to do it for yourself. Eddie will tell you himself. He's been in a different industry for about 20 years, and other than the small amount of 401k that they made you put away, there is nothing that they built for you. That's why I think that if I could teach you guys financial prosperity, you guys could at least have $100,000 in your bank account within the next 6 years. So just in case anything happens, you have something to fall back on. There's so much comfort in understanding that for you guys. So the other thing is strong connection with family that I want you guys to write down. You guys need to have a very, very strong connection with family. This does not mean that you're going to keep up with the people that are toxic. Too many people that are there to watch you fail in this industry. And I'm only speaking for you guys as real estate professionals. Somebody in your family has always had that negative perspective of you joining a sales environment. I know Eddie has, I know Abraham, I know a bunch of you, I know Teresa, you hear it all the time because we got to sell. And to be honest with you, that's mentally defeating. That will beat the crap out of you. And I've been in that position where you're thinking to yourself, I'm only as good as my last paycheck. But that's why we're here to break that curse. That's why you show up every single day. The worst thing that can happen is that you become a better individual by learning these key components to becoming a better salesperson. The book itself says it. If you want to accumulate wealth, specialize in something, and it says a product, something you're selling. Anywhere you guys go get a job, you still have to sell. Doesn't matter. And even if you don't have to sell, you have to sell yourself around the other coworkers because there's so many politics involved in that you still got to be a salesperson because you got to get along with the crew that gets all the recognition. Does that make any sense to you guys? So that's why it's important for you guys to understand that the strongest connection with your family is going to be very important. However, this does not mean that you guys are attached to toxic people. 2016, I made a very conscious decision that I would eliminate all the toxic people from my life. Trust me, I was not a jerk about it. It was very, very plain and simple. Oh, come over. Oh, I know we're going to just talk crap about people. And I'm already getting kind of sick and tired of that conscious decision. Maybe I can go over later. That would go on for a couple months until they got the hang of it, until it transitioned to you think you're better than them, until it transitions to you got more money than them. Now the tables have turned and you get to set the terms at your will. Does that make any sense? So you're going to have to go through that level of experience if you guys are going to work on your mindset. So for example, if there's somebody toxic in your life, you need to detach because your mindset is so sensitive that if you hear any ounce of negativity to what you're doing, then it's going to accumulate when you're having a bad transaction. Oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't be in real estate. Like, damn, I'm about to lose all this money. I'm not making anything. I can go get an hourly job. I can go. Does that make any sense to you guys? So that's why the mindset, but the family connection is very important because now that I have everybody on board, my family understands that I have a 5-year plan. You guys, I suggest you guys to have a very similar plan. I do not want you being 100 years old and still showing homes. You know why? Because we're going to learn about the accumulation of wealth and have financial prosperity. So why wouldn't it be smart for every single one of us to own 10 properties so that we could have passive income? And I want to share numbers with you because people don't understand. I have $126,000 of passive income in real estate property that I can just kind of just kick back and watch. Does that make any sense to you guys? Perfect. You could do the exact same thing. I haven't done anything different. Matter of fact, when I see you guys calling and I see you guys engaging in your prospecting activities, I'm like, all it takes is for a specific breakthrough. The book talked about 3 feet from goal. Does that make sense? The only way to develop a very strong connection with your family also is for the pockets to be pretty deep. It sucks. I'm not trying to knock anybody right now, but it's way different when you go to a restaurant, you get up, nobody can even watch you. You've already taken care of the tab, and all of a sudden it's like, man, you paid for everything. Yeah, it's not a big deal. That's the type of financial prosperity that the industry brings, but it's important for you guys to have that connection. I know people say money doesn't buy anything, but money solves a lot of problems. I know it doesn't solve health problems because obviously I've been in health problems. Money can't buy anything to cure me. But the reality of stuff is that I'd rather be in a very, very, very bad position with money than be in a very, very bad position and be flat broke. It doesn't give you a clear understanding of how to make conscious decisions. Is that important to you guys, or is it not?
Yes.
So the last thing that I want to touch on, and I'm not trying to preach to you guys, but you guys need to develop a very amazing spiritual life. I would really be working on your spirituality. I'm not here to tell you God, whatever you believe in. That's not in my place. But meditate to yourself 10 minutes. Here's another thing that's very important. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I would say let's take some time, 10 minutes a day, to be very thankful. My common practice is I just sit there, I close my eyes, and I say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Why am I being thankful so often? I'm doing it because the human body by nature will complain about so many things. Oh, this didn't come out. Oh, I gotta, and I hear myself all the time, oh, I gotta pump gas. Oh, I gotta go to that meeting. And then all of a sudden, stuff becomes a drag. And we've been learning about auto-suggestions. Why not auto-suggest thankfulness into our life? And then value the little things. I woke up, I'm breathing. I'm in an industry where I can make as much as I want to according to the actual work that I put in. So the spiritual life is something that you guys need to ask yourself, how can I improve my spirituality? Learn that you guys are the most spiritual when you guys are going through financial roller coasters. Because the minute you get a little pocket in your change, all of a sudden you forgot that you have to be thankful for the fact that you're breathing and that you're alive. Does that make any sense to you guys? So real quick, just to go there, strong mindset. That's what you guys are learning in your mastermind. Community contribution, which you guys will see me engage in often. Strong relationships, financial prosperity, strong connection with family, and amazing spiritual life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
The mastermind, if you guys want to write it down to definition, is it's a monthly and daily routine that we're doing to set our skills and expand our thinking. So here's something that I've been learning, and this is my closing. What's your why? I've been asking you guys to really determine your why. Really get into the why. Let me give you an example of my why. My why is to make sure that I am never in the financial position that my parents were in. That's one of my whys. My why is to be able to travel because I want to have unlimited access to capital where I could just say, hey, that's a $3,000 flight. I'll pay for it. I'm going to go travel. You guys need to understand what your why is. Here's what the numbers say. Annually in the San Fernando Valley, just the San Fernando Valley, write down this number, 5,000 homes are being sold. 5,000 homes in the San Fernando Valley is a lot of homes every single year. Isn't it a lot of homes?
Yes.
I remember when I first started my clothing brand, my whole why was like, if Jay-Z made $500 million from Rockaware, I can make up, even if I make $1 million, I'll be good to go. If you take on that approach, if there's 5,000 homes, even if I sell 10% of that, even if I sell 50 of those, even if I sell 5 of those, you're in a good position. Does that make any sense to you guys? So here's the truth. So the average sales price right now with this pandemic is $648,000. Write that down. Because people are going to ask you right now that you guys are all pumped up and getting into real estate, what's the average sales price? Edward, what's your answer?
684,000.
648,000.
648,000.
Oh,
man.
648.
640.
Yeah. I always say 636. It's just like, you know, I'm getting like a 2.5% decline because of COVID-19. So, but you guys can say whatever you guys want to. The average commission is 2.5% of that. So look, here's a number. $81 million of available commission to you guys in the San Fernando Valley. Even if I get $81,000, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll take that any day. Does that make sense? Wow. That's acid reflex. here's a question that I want you guys to ask yourself so that we can get into it, our affirmations. How much of that did you really want? How much of the $81 million do you want?
What we want is the whole thing, but we can't get to it.
I'm just saying, there's $81 million consistently. And look, people are scared of this economy crashing. I talk to people with that every single day. I think I talk about like 90% of my calls are like COVID-19, #COVID-19, because everybody's thinking about COVID-19. If we're learning about auto suggestions, why are we not attracting the customers that are not giving those objections? Ask yourself, is that objection more in your mind or is it in the customer's mind? The customer's mind, right?
Yeah.
But you attract what you want. If you look at my blue notebook, I've been writing down forever, 700 plus FICO score customer, 20% down payment. I see all these other people pitching 0% down and all this stuff. And to me, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go down that avenue, because that avenue is a customer that's going to constantly complain, kick and whine. Everything needs to be the bueno, bonito, y barato. Versus the customer that's extremely educated that comes in and it's like, we're going to close the deal in a very short period of time, as long as I do my part of the process. Right? Does that make sense? So be very, very cautious that we're going to be learning all these things, and it's going to be a lot of information, but I guarantee you guys are going to be top sales professional. Eat, sleep, breathe, everything real estate. You are in a sales environment. People, like yesterday, my last call was at 9:20. Isn't that ridiculous? Yes.
I was texting with a client on KB Core up till 10:30 last night.
Yeah, they do that. People want to buy, they're gonna buy. And for the guys that are right now participating in the KV Core, you guys need to pay attention, because the round robin is now in full effect. You guys are gonna get leads into your inbox that are gonna come in, and you're gonna be like agent website. Does that make any sense to you guys? So if they looked at your website, that's like an 80% chance that you're gonna close that deal. You guys just need to take on a massive follow-up approach of 10 touches. You've got to call the customer and provide a specific service. 65% of the people that are clicking on your agent website are already extremely frustrated because the previous agent did not run a structure. Their previous agent is not calling them at 9 a.m. because they just finished a mastermind and they got enlightened to, man, I got to call more people. Their previous agent doesn't come into the office until 11:30, so you guys are already 2 to 3 hours a step ahead of the game. I like to see myself as a real estate stockbroker in New York. In New York, what time would you guys be starting your workday?
4:30.
You're around 4:30, 5 a.m., right? For us, for them, they're hitting down. I always like to feel that way, just to refresh my mind. And I've created that environment for myself so that really early start, and my customer can hit me up at 7:30. You said you called the customer at 6 a.m.
Yeah, today.
You see, that's the type of engagement that you need, because sometimes we think about, we want to do a gazillion deals. No, close that one deal, get that commission check. Let's move on to the next one. Takes a total of about 10,000 hours for you guys to be really at that level where it's like boom, 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 boom. But a lot of us don't want to even put in the 1,000 hours yet.
I can really step up my game with the 10 touch program. Would you be able to show us like how you do it on K4 or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. And on your buyer's checklist, and again, this is some process and systems that I've been developing, but it gives you from engagement all the way to the real conversion. And on the checklist, you should be entering notes very specific. And the reason why is because you guys are going to be handling such high volumes, it is impossible for you to remember everything. Like if you hear me talk about property sometime, I'm like, you got to give me like last name, you got to give me the address, you got to give me so many of the information, because of the fact that we're transacting at a very, very high level. We're like true professionals. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I don't know. There's a million Contreras. There's a million Gonzalez, Rodriguez.
Yes,
like,
yes.
yeah, everything. There's a million of them. So that's what you guys need to. But the 10 touch program, just to answer your question, this morning mastermind is very, very important. because people think that in our industry, we're gonna get the deal on the first call. It is very, very rare. You have to develop some type of relationship or consistency where the customer is saying, man, this guy has really, like yesterday, that appointment that we went to, even though all of us were there to do the presentation and close them, David was the guy that followed up. And there was a huge language barrier, but the guy needed the service so much that he decided to improve his English to communicate with David. And the whole time he was kind of like watching David to quarterback the deal. And you know why? Because he's familiar with David. How many times did you touch him before that? Maybe let's say 5 times, 4 times.
Following up with him for probably 3 months.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, give it up for David.
I know. I know. That's
You really went on the phone.
Yeah. So the whole point is that we got there, and it's like, you know, I was speaking to him in his language. We sat at his kitchen table and everything, and he still needed the actual approval of David.
You know, the funny thing about that one, our
Yeah.
first conversation we had is because he's an Inspired.
Yeah.
He was just so frustrated. He was like, look, man, just don't call me anymore.
Oh,
I
really?
called him 2 weeks later, and I was like, oh, look, you told me, but you still do need to sell. And then I just got a little bit more information time by time,
Yeah.
and then eventually led into the phone.
So
So he was so resistant when we first started. I feel like a lot of agents were just giving up the first time.
yeah, they will.
Yeah, he was like kind of yelling at me, but now.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, when I get those type of challenges, like I like those type of challenges because those are the type of people that fall the hardest. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that girl that didn't want to ever date that guy because he like it was never gonna happen, and the guy was so consistent that he finally closed the deal. That's kind of how it is with the customers. The customers are like, no, 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 no. I've had so many customers tell me no, no, no for 3 months that I've embedded my brand, my name, and me as a real estate professional in their mind that the minute that they run into a 911 emergency, guess who they're hitting up. So these are all sales funnels that you guys need to be conscious that they're actually there because they're there. But anyway, to wrap it up, that gentleman was a result of, you guys are hearing it yourself, 3 months of touches. And let's just say on a 1.1, you do a GCI, that's $30,000 commission potential for 3 months. Let's divide that 30,000 into 3 months. How much are you making for just following up? So why is it so difficult to do the massive follow-up? Because we want it all easy. And they've sold us the wrong concept of real estate. We've systemized it. But anyway, let's get up and let's do our affirmations because we have a powerful sales morning and we're going to get a bunch of appointments today. I know we are.
I commit.